So this month marks 2 years that we've had our tent set up. We've never taken it down. It's been set up for summer, fall, winter, and spring for 2 years. So we're going to take a look at it and see how it's holding up. But first, we're going to build a fire. We're spending the night. Should be fun. So we average between 60 and 90 inches of snow every year. 35 or so inches of rain every year. And I think last year there was 150 some odd days of rain. So our average winter temperatures, depending on what month you look at, are roughly, I don't know, 20 to 35 degrees. But we do have spells where we're in the single digits, but usually not for very long. Things are a little bit wet. We've had some rain. I had a project where I was doing cedar shake siding on my house. So I got a lot of scrappy pieces of cedar to use for kindling. It burns pretty well. Pretty acrid smoke though, that's the only problem. So our local airport recorded 80 plus inches of snow this winter. So our winters aren't super severe, but we had a few snowfalls where it limited our access to the tent. But I did have to come in to clean the snow off the top, clean the snow off the rain fly. Just so we didn't have any problems. Although our rain fly is set up so that it takes all the load and the tent does, and I still come in and clean that heavy snow off. Heavy wet snow is the worst. So we're going to pile some wood up here, get this going before it gets dark. Let's go take a look at the tent. So first things first, this tent is made by Davis Tent and Awning in Colorado. Awesome company, awesome tent. I bought a tent from them. It's a great quality tent, and it's been set up for 2 years. So let's look at the rain fly, because the rain fly is the key to keeping this tent in good shape. This rain fly is a vinyl rain fly. It's a really heavy material. You can see that. Super heavy. It has got a lot of staining on it, but I don't care. So the rivets are holding up nicely. This thing's been through some wind. All the stitching on this rain fly is holding up perfectly. Again, it's a little discolored. We got some pollen going on. It's got some staining, but that's all good. We have a lot of pine trees around here, and right now they're pumping out a lot of pollen. So So you can see that this thing is holding up quite well. Again, the stitching is really good on this. We even have some areas where we're rubbing against the logs and there's no issues there. We just recently put our cover on. In our last video I showed that, and you can see it's already starting to catch debris, but that's good. That keeps that debris from falling down into the tent. This is where our stove jack is. Stovepipe comes through there in the winter. Again, this is a vinyl awning. Very nice. Well made. No problems after 2 years. This is the inside stitching. They put these gussets in here, reinforcement gussets. That's what I call them anyways. Nicely stitched, everything's holding up. No issues where it might rub on logs. Good quality material, heavy duty. And this rainfly, I keep calling it an awning. And this rainfly, again, is the key to keeping this tent in really good shape. So let's look at the tent itself. All the stitching is good. We don't have any issues. We don't have any issues with any of the stitching. The fabric is holding up. Our tent is fairly shaded, except for on this end. Let's take a look. On this end, we don't get that much shade. This end of the tent takes more sun than the rest, and it's still holding up well. Looks like they have a spot where the stitches came together, but that's fine. You can see the stitches are holding up really well on this tent. And again, this is the side of the tent that takes the majority of the sun. It's clean. You can see my hands are dirty. All the stitches are good. The screen's holding up nicely. No issues. Stitching's good. Screens are good. Fabric's holding up very well. On this tent, we have the vinyl bottom to the tent itself. It keeps moisture from wicking up. I think this is something that Davis Tent does on all their glamping tents, maybe. Tents that are going to be set up for a long time. No problems. 2 years in all sorts of weather. All sorts of cold weather, rainy. Cold, rainy, windy, hot, dry, sun, shade, you name it. So we have the Colorado door, which I think is pretty important, especially if you're going to leave them set up for a long period of time. It allows you to really lock this up. You can zip it, and then this flap covers the door, and you can buckle it right up. So when you get into those really heavy, windy, snowy days, it keeps it pretty secure. This also has this really nice heavy-duty zipper. We've never had a problem with the zipper. Never had a problem with the screens. The only damage we've had with this to this tent is from mice. So the mice decided they needed to get in, and they chewed a hole in our screen at the top of the door. This spring we did have an influx of stink bugs. I think it was just so nice and warm in here compared to the outside temperature that they decided that this was a nicer place to be. So we did come down, swatted them all out, got them out. But that only lasted for maybe a week. One thing we did have some problems with is the opening in the rain fly was allowing debris to get down in around our where our stove jack is, and I covered this in the last video, but it allowed debris to get in there in the summertime, and the folks out at Davis Tent were nice enough to send me a cover for that I put Velcro on, and so when we pulled the stovepipe out, we were able to cover that opening in the rain fly, which keeps debris from coming through the rain fly and landing on the tent. The only trouble spot I have is right there, and let me show you. So the stitching at the top, there's a cover that you pull over the stove jack, and you can tie it down, keeps stuff from coming in, keeps mosquitoes and bugs and stuff out. But that stitching at the top, where that flap is stitched, is starting to show some wear, and that's just because the debris that was catching up there would hold moisture, I believe, and it did stain it. I don't think it's compromised, but it is a little bit of a area on the roof that's discolored. Hopefully we don't have any problems up there in the future. Our window zippers are holding up nicely in the cold weather. They zip up nicely. We haven't had any icing problems. What's nice about these, the zippers are up inside the tent, and so any water infiltration or icing that you might get is not going to affect those zippers. The tents have all these reinforced corners, and again, we don't have any issues with those. So the material on this tent is a Sunforger Marine boat shrunk canvas. It's waterproof, mildew proof, and fire resistant. It's holding up good. 2 years. This tent, we've had this tent for 2 years, and we've stayed in it in all sorts of weather. I'm letting mosquitoes in because we do have a lot of mosquitoes right now. So I got the door open. I got to go out and close this. So again, this tent is from Davis Tent and Awning in Colorado. We've had this tent for 2 years, all sorts of weather. We've had 0 issues. It's held up quite nicely. And again, we've stayed in this in all sorts of weather. Single digits, rain, wind, snow. I hunt out of this tent. It's an awesome tent. We love it. Now it's summertime, it's camping time. So I'm gonna go have a beer, sit by the fire, and enjoy this night. Before we go, if you remember, we planted a wildflower meadow on the back side of this tent. We had some open area, and it's doing okay. Let's go take a look. So we do have a lot of grass that's growing up, but there's also a lot of flowers in here, and I can't tell you what the flowers are. We got yellow flowers, red flowers, blue flowers, purple flowers, and there's a lot of other flowers getting ready to bloom.
It's a chilly morning. It's 5 o'clock in the morning. The birds are singing. It's 52 degrees. Beautiful. The crows are sounding off as usual. Coffee water should be getting warm now.